Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel. In today's video we're going to be taking you for a mega review in this gorgeous Volvo V40 Cross Country. Now this particular car is a D3, which means it is the 2 litre diesel capable of returning between 45 and 60 mpg. So we're going to take you all around it, take it on a drive all around all sorts of different roads, give you everything you need to know about this car. So let's go. So as you can see, this is a lovely looking car straight away, and this is the cross country version of the ever popular V40. In fact, there's one next door. You can see the difference here. The cross country has the plastic cladding on, slightly raised ride height as well, and at the front you've got the lovely Thor's hammer headlight. This of course is a facelifted version. They originally came out in 2012, these cars, and I think they're possibly one of the most timeless looking Volvos ever made. This particular car is obviously a 2018. They had a facelift in 2016, and my dad actually owned one of these as a company car in 2014, so I've got a lot of love for the V40 in general. Now my favourite type is particularly these later cars, and that's because they had the facelift headlights with the sort of Thor's hammer, as I suggested, but they also got a whole load of other kit which made them just probably one of the best cars you can buy, or the best hatchbacks you could buy at the time. The front here then, we've obviously got our lovely plastic cladding along the bottom, and Volvo put this on the XE cars because they think you're going to be driving along through sort of rough terrain, and this stuff is far more hard wearing than paint, for example. Got a lovely Volvo grille here, and you see this one obviously has the facelifted badge. Previous generation of the pre-facelift one had the blue Volvo badge. It's just a lovely looking car. Moving around to the side then, the cross country gives you a slightly chunkier sidewall tyre. These particular tyres are or these particular wheels are 17 inches, and you can see nice amount of cushioning, which is nice. They tend to be a little bit more comfortable, these cross countries, than perhaps the standard V40. Coming around the back then, I think is one of the best angles of this car. I think if you're looking for a car that's a bit unique, the back of these cars, typically Volvo, don't forget this is from the same era as that XC70 there, they really do look good. And you've got the twin exhaust at the back here with the cross-country splitter and diffuser. This particular car's got a lovely protective lip on the boot as well. It's just a lovely looking car. Let's move inside, because that's where you're going to be spending your time, is inside. And you can see this one is particularly nice. So if we open it up, we're met with a lovely light interior. Now you notice this car is a bit dirtier than some of the other ones we reviewed. This is because this is actually the service car. I told Adrian that I liked it and I wanted to film one, and he got it sorted out. So it's not as clean as a brand new car, but that's because it actually belongs to Keith Price as a courtesy car. So it's used every day and has higher mileages, etc. So yeah, we've got this lovely light insert in the door here. I really like this milled aluminium trim. I just like the way Volvo use aluminium to really make it seem upmarket in here. You've got the typical Volvo switch panel here. We've got our lock unlock, we've got mirror controls, and we've got window controls here as well. So there's a nicely molded door handle. Going inside, we've got a manually adjustable seat. We've got a nice light coloured seat as well. And it's interesting because it's cloth. It doesn't pick up as much dirt as perhaps leather would. It's easy to clean. We've got headlights controls here, boot release as well. And then moving inside, we have the standard non-digital dashboard here, which I quite like. Sort of analog looking gauges, analog dials, etc. We've then got the steering wheel here with your cruise control limiter on, as well as your track control and infotainment inputs in terms of volume, etc. We've got a slightly smaller screen here, this being a sort of a lower spec V40, but again, it's just lovely in here. You've got a waterfall dash here, which is floating as well, which means there's space behind it. We've also got our lovely gear selector and this lovely brushed sort of copper finish, which I really like. If we put the key in the dashboard here, just turn the ignition on, we get, it's going to beep at me because the door's open. Oh, did you hear the sound of that door? Tune. So we've got our gear knob here, and this is just a miniature large Volvo really. Everything's as you expect. So you've got 2 cup holders, you've got the nice big armrest here as well, a nice sized glove box, a huge glove box actually, as well as a lovely cross country flash of aluminium across the front here. This system is all controlled via the buttons here in the center sort of waterfall area. So we've got the radio, we've got media as well. This is of course capable, or came with nav as well. This particular car doesn't have it. You've got all sorts of different ways of putting your media in. You've got Bluetooth, you've got an auxiliary input, you've got obviously Bluetooth phone, etc. All as standard. You've then got the climate controls here as well, operated here, fan speed, temperature, etc. It's just a nice, easy place to be. Everything's easy to use, and I think for the price point that these cars were at, you could get these for sort of early £20,000 when they came out. They really were a great alternative to a Golf or a Ford Focus or a 1 Series, because they give you that premium feel for an affordable price. And they've got nicely outfitted switches up here. We've got the frameless mirror as well, and then in the back we've got a good amount of space too. So in terms of rear space, this car is actually one of the best in class. You've got quite a bit of rear space, more than you'd expect. Now if we get in, I mean I'm 6'2", this is in my driving position, probably a little closer actually, and I've got ample foot space. I've got just enough head space to be comfortable. I'm not going to be touching the roof despite the amount of hair I've got, and knee space as well isn't too encroached. I remember as a kid you had the cup holders that pop out there that had many fruit shoots in. I say I was a kid, I was 16, 17, so I wasn't really a kid, but I remember spending a lot of time in the back of one of these. We also had the mat pockets as well. The seats are nicely contoured, they're comfortable, and we've also got a fold down armrest as well. That's it, it's just a fold down armrest. But driving along like this, it's a lovely place to be. The light headliner as well means that it's not too dark, despite the sort of high belt line of the windows here. They don't go all the way down, as you can see, just because of the shape of the door. It's very difficult to do that in modern cars. But yeah, overall, it's a lovely space to be, and you can actually release the rear seats just here on the switch, like so, to give a full flat load area, which is handy. You could probably sleep in this thing. I reckon there'd be enough space. But let's go around and have a look in the boot as well. So as you open the boot then, just on the button here, you can see you've got a decent sized boot. One criticism this car had when it was new is the fact that the boot opening is quite high up. So if you're lifting heavy things off the floor into the car, it can be quite a way up. But you're not really going to be doing that in a V40 anyway. You've got a boot divider here. You can see we've got the list price, an options list, which was handy as well at the time, and also as part of that you've got hooks for your shopping bags as well, which is nice. And you can see you've got a fair bit of length there from the back of the car, which is sort of bringing in that typical Volvo practicality. You've got a nice solid rear shelf here as well for privacy, but also it's sturdy enough that you can put stuff on it, for umbrellas, etc. And that is pretty much it. Like these are the base model Volvos. They're nice and simple, but nicely refined as well. So I think we should get this out on the road, because this is the auto as well, which would be quite nice. They were quite rare in an automatic. Let's get it out on the road and see how it performs. Okay then, so let's take this out for a spin. We've got a manual handbrake we release, put it into drive, and the car just pulls away. And it's just nice and light and easy. This is the 2.0 the 2 litre diesel engine, so it's the lower tax band. Should get, Adrian reckons it'll get over 60 miles per gallon, nearly up to 70-80 miles per gallon on a run, which I think is fantastic. This car will basically cost you nothing to drive at that point, and I think it really does suit someone who perhaps does a lot of town driving, or perhaps doesn't have the biggest family, or perhaps just wants it as a runaround. So we're going to take it through the town first. This gearbox and engine combination work really well together. Straight away it's nice and smooth. We've got an eco dial on here, which is nice, because if you're a bit of a nerd like me, you like to sort of see what MPG you can get. So I'll be interested to see what we do get. We've got controls here, we can change the displays on the dashboard here. But I like the fact that this is an automatic, this car. It does suit it to be an automatic, I think. And it just yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with everything good about Volvo put into a hatchback. I think it's surprised these didn't do. I mean, they did very well in terms of sales. I don't know why we've ended up with a convoy coming through, but I'm surprised you don't see more of these on the road. You do see quite a bit, but how you could have chosen a Golf over this, I don't know. This is much better put together. And look, we've got a relatively tight space to fit through here, and it's no problem in a V40. So it's nice and easy. Visibility is great. The only gripe I would say is perhaps the rear window is a bit small, but that was something that people said when they first came out. But you get the sense, despite the fact it's a smaller car, that it is just as well built as every other Volvo. It's a solid chunk of metal that's going to look after you. You can hear there's no sort of creaks or rattles as we go over bumps. It is a solid thing. And I think in this black colour as well, it looks really nice. It looks upmarket. The pre-facelift ones were lovely, but I think those Thor hammer headlights really do set these cars off. Now, like I said, these came out in 2012, meaning the oldest versions of these cars are actually 11 years old now. And you can pick them up for as low as $3,000, and at that price it's pretty staggering, the amount of value that they actually offer. I think you'd struggle to find a better car at that price, personally, if you're looking for a hatchback. This one's got a nice extension of cruise control, which on these smaller cars was an optional extra. They weren't. The options list was, I think, well, these cars started under $20,000 at the time, so you obviously had optional extras that you could add on, but Volvo really going for that Golf market, to give you a car that was sort of Mercedes A-Class and BMW 1 Series prestige for the price of a Golf, and I think they did a good job with that indeed. In stop-start traffic, you don't even think about it. You've got this lovely sweeping dashboard, and I like how the door panels sort of swoop into the dashboard. It's quite nice, and the light headlining as well is lovely indeed. They did offer this as, well, they offered a couple of petrol engines. They offered the T2, the T3, and also the T4 and the T5, which initially had a 5-cylinder engine before they then replaced it with more modern 4-cylinder engines when they facelifted these cars. And they also offered a number of diesel engines as well. They had a D2, which was 1.6 litre 4-cylinder diesel, capable of up to 90 miles per gallon, which is incredible. It was a PSA Group or Nissan Renault engine. It was only really available with a manual gearbox. You could get it with an automatic, but it was a bit of a nightmare gearbox really. It was the Ford power shift gearbox. They then obviously did this D3, and early cars there was actually a 5-cylinder engine taken down to 2 litre and was badged as a D3, and the D4 was very much the same, with slightly more power. This particular car runs the newer generation 2 litre engines, and these engines are incredible. I don't know what Volvo did in the mid 2010s, but they sort of started doing magic, and you could get the D4, which is probably the one I would go for, 2 litre diesel 4-cylinder, capable of 190 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 7 seconds, 140 mile an hour top speed, but would achieve 80 miles per gallon on a run. It was free to tax. It was just mind-blowing, and that was the engine my dad was going to go for until he found out there was a 13-month waiting list for it, because I don't think anyone could quite believe what they managed to get out of these engines. And this one's very much the same, geared slightly more towards economy than the performance side of things, but at sort of round towns and everything like that, this car is perfectly capable. It's comfortable, the bumps are nicely isolated, it's just a very easy car to drive.
Bless you.
Thank you. Let it out. And we're going to take it onto a dual carriageway shortly, because smaller cars can feel a bit out of their depth on dual carriageways, so it'll be interesting to see how this one deals with it. I don't doubt that it'll be fantastic, but I just want to see what it can do. Just see as well what sort of MPG we get, I think. I'll try and work out how to can find that. We never know. That fuel consumption, there we go. We should be able to get our fuel consumption 51. We've averaged 50 miles per gallon already around town, which is incredible considering it's an automatic gearbox, which tend to get slightly worse fuel economy. 50.2 miles per gallon, that's fantastic. So let's take it onto the dual carriageway. We're gonna take it round a roundabout, slightly higher speed, just to see how it handles. So brace the camera. We did have a bit of a fall earlier today. Let's see, we'll start driving it a bit of anger to see how it picks up. So and you can see this thing, it handles brilliantly actually. And if we put our foot down as we come off the roundabout here, it moves, it really does move. I don't think the majority of people need a car that's much quicker than this. And now that we're up to speed with the cruise control set, I just saw 80 miles per gallon. Just move back into the inside lane here. And actually there's no sort of massive amount of road noise, there's no wind noise. It's a very comfortable, capable car. And again, like all Volvos, I think I say this in every Volvo review, but I can imagine spending a lot of time doing a long journey. The engine's quiet. There's a bit of noise. I think Mrs. Dale can confirm this. Coming from the back, yeah, she's nodding. But you get that in hatchbacks. You don't have quite the amount of space to do all that sort of MVH development as you do with, say, a saloon car or something like that.
The biggest difference in here is actually the visibility at the back is really bad.
Is it?
Yeah.
As a rear passenger?
Yeah. I mean, my eye line is like on the headliner.
Right. Okay.
And then.
Actually, yes, I remember that from when Dad had one.
Yeah.
As a rear passenger, you're sat higher than the front passenger.
Yeah.
So looking forward, you see quite a bit of the headline, which I mean.
But then the actual window is a very deep,
yeah,
big at all. So yeah.
I think if you're driving it, it's not a problem, is it?
No, not at all. No.
But might be something if you've got a child that gets car sick. Maybe it's something to consider.
Yeah.
But it's just a very car. I mean, I think we shot off quite quickly there. It really did. I was actually quite surprised at how, I think this is 0 to 60 in 8.5, 9 seconds, something like that. And I was surprised how well that did off the line.
And actually, from filming the hybrid cars,
yeah, the 0 to 65 seconds.
It's quite nice to actually hear an engine noise.
A real engine.
Yeah, and it does sound quite different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not that this is particularly beefy, but you know what I mean.
There's a more analog feel to it, isn't there? More sort of grunt, which is nice. And yeah, like I said, I can just spend a lot of time in this car. I think the light seats is a nice option. You could get them with light leather, and that's probably what I'd go for if I was going to spec something like this. And I'd probably also go for the panoramic roof, which is an option as well. But yeah, it's just lovely. It really is a nice car. It's responsive. That's what I like. I think because it's a smaller car, it's quite responsive. It doesn't lean through corners. It just does everything very well. And even as we come around here, quite a sharp bend, you can feed the power in, and it just grips. It just grips excellently. It's a bit of a 60-mile-an-hour road here. We just, yeah, it's excellent. And then you've got ample braking power. But I don't know if you felt that, but it was just planted. You can really cover distance quite quick because it's a very agile car. You've got a nice amount of steering feel. You're not too isolated, and I could quite happily aim one of these.
It does remind me of my A-Class a bit, actually.
Does it? You miss your A-Class, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this. I actually, in terms of driving comfort, I prefer this to the A-Class and the 1 Series because the seats are just that much more comfortable. I'm quite a wide person. The A-Class and the 1 Series have quite tight seats. It's probably more of a me issue than the car, but
I was going to say I used to love it. So
whereas this car, it doesn't matter who you are. It's nice and comfortable.
And the back is very comfortable.
Is it? Is it because you've sat in many middle seats in the back?
I know.
Is this probably one of the more comfortable ones?
Yeah.
These cyclists are doing 30 miles an hour. Quite impressive, isn't it? Yeah, this is. I honestly, again, I can't find any issues with this car at all. It's lovely. I think if you're a young person looking for a good, safe first car, or perhaps a parent who's got a bit of money to spend on a car for their child, this is fantastic. But also, if you're anybody, this car could fit into anybody's lifestyle.
And also, the older versions aren't too far removed, are they? Really, in terms of performance and comfort. So
yeah,
if you haven't got this money to spend, it doesn't matter because really it's the same.
You can get a lot of car for your money, and like I said, this is over. Despite the fact I've just been driving a bit like a hooligan there, we're still over 50 miles per gallon average on this journey. I haven't seen that number for a long time.
I've never seen that number.
No, your Jeep Wrangler does what, 22?
Yeah.
And this is far nicer to drive.
And that actually might be American miles per gallon, which is even more than what.
Exactly. And like you've got enough space in the lane with this car that you can move around. You can enjoy driving. Well, you saw me coming and went anyway. Nice. And it just, I can't pick any faults with it. I can imagine around town it's lovely, good for chucking stuff in the back, shopping. There's ample space for shopping. You could probably fit a Labrador in there.
Yeah.
Probably only one. You would want to fit.
Probably just
try and fit two. And I think an Alsatian might be a little large in terms of dog capacity, but I just really like this. This torque converter gearbox is the same as I've got in my Volvo. It's the Geartronic. It's the TF80SC ASIN gearbox, and this is actually the 81SC gearbox with the overdrive features on 5th and 6th gear, which giving you essentially 8 speeds, and it's it really suits this car. You don't get many hatchbacks with full torque converter gearboxes, but this one is really, really nice indeed. I can't find any issues with it at all. And I haven't managed to upset it or confuse it. It's just done everything. The only time you notice this is a smaller car is just little bumps like that, a harsh pothole. You get more of that into the cabin than perhaps you would in a larger or newer car. But they're pretty small, especially here in Wales. There aren't many potholes at all. I think it's the only one I've hit today in Wales. So it's just nice. I like the digital dashboard. I like the fact you've got an eco dial. Stick filmed on the car. You've got an eco dial here that sort of encourages you. When I'm driving along, I'm trying to look at that, keep that dial in the green, get the maximum fuel economy possible. And it's just, it's brilliant. It really is a brilliant little car, this. I can't think of anything from a Volvo hatchback. I think there's very little to add. They've really done a good job thinking about this. And also you've got the option to drive it in manual mode if you feel that way inclined. So we've put it in sport mode now. It's going to be a bit more angry and we can change it. Well, I'm not going to drive it in that. It does a very good job on its own. And it's responsive enough even not in sport mode to get things going, which is nice. And actually that Ford there that you can see, this car's based on the same chassis as that Ford Focus. It was designed from the time when Ford owned Volvo, and this is based on the same platform as the Focus, but is worlds apart in terms of build quality, driving characteristics. The only thing they share is that chassis. Everything else is pure Volvo, and it was actually mostly designed by Volvo anyway. So yeah, what else is there to say really? Get a D4 if you're going to get one. I think that for me would be the ultimate balance of fuel economy and performance. If you want something that's ridiculously quick, get a T5. Otherwise, D3, D2 will be perfectly adequate for everything you need. Even the petrol cars will be. Obviously, don't get as much fuel economy, but if you don't do long journeys, you're only going to get problems with the diesel. So there's my quick buyer's guide for you there. Yeah, what are your impressions, Mrs. DL?
My final thoughts is that if you had a teenager who's looking for a car, or a child that's looking for a car, I think that was a really good point. I think it would be a really good first or second safe car for drivers that aren't so experienced.
When I was 17 and my dad had one of these, we got an insurance quote on it, and this was cheaper than my £200 Polo that I ended up having. This was £600 for me to insure. No years, no claims, no experience driving before. And that, I think, is testament to the safety of these cars, the safety technology that stops you crashing, and also just how solid they are. Even the insurance companies are willing to give you a discount for them. So yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I just think it would be a really good car for somebody who's starting out, who's not got any experience at all, really. It's good. Yeah,
and I think it's just one of those cars that I can't think, if you're in the market for a hatchback, I can't see any reason why you go for anything else. It's unless you're that sort of concerned about how a vehicle looks and the style. But then this looks fantastic. This looks fantastic as well.
Especially the cross country pack.
It looks really
good
cool,
on it.
doesn't it?
Especially in black as well.
Yeah, and it is that bit more comfortable, isn't it? With the slightly raised up suspension, slightly raised driving position. Yeah, I'd love to just have one of these actually.
I think you'd want to have everyone from this dealership.
I'd like to have every Volvo. That's my problem, is I haven't found a bad Volvo yet.
I feel like they've all got different moods, haven't they? Like if you felt a certain way, you would pick a certain model.
Exactly, yeah. And I can imagine that sort of the perfect family setup would be perhaps a V40, an XC70, and then a C70 convertible for the weekends. That would be the perfect family setup if you're a Volvo family. But yeah, that is all. Thanks again to Keith Price for lending us this car. They've really done massive favours today. We've had 3 cars from them, all of which have been fantastic, all of which I wanted to film with for a long time. So thank you to Keith Price Garages and Adrian for making this happen. If you're in the market for a new or used Volvo, be sure to get in touch with them and get their details all in the description down below. And yeah, we'll see you next video. Cheers.